Hello and welcome. I'm Wangil Tamana and this is Recap Ethiopia. It's that time of the week where we look back at some of the top stories in Ethiopia that happened this past week. This week, we will talk about the upcoming regional elections in Tigray, Zeybe's report on housing and land allocation in Addis Ababa, as well as listing several recognitions granted to several Ethiopian and diaspora professionals. Make sure you stay with us. Housing and land appropriation. It is featured as one of Addis Ababa's core problems. These issues are sources of political discourse among the elite and the general public as well. In the city that is trying its utmost to accommodate the millions that live and travel back and forth from it, recent chatter over illegal or unjust, at the very least, land grabs and appropriations of condominium housings became a very thematic area for discussion among the public and took social media by storm. According to the new report by Ethiopian Citizens for Social Justice Party, Zeybe, which was made public on Monday, August 31, 2020, the party has collected witness testimony and other documentary evidences supporting the above claims surrounding land appropriation and housing allocation issues in the capital of Addis Ababa. According to the report, the culprits of the alleged land grab were identified as officials within the city administration, government authorities, as well as the recipients of the land and condominium in question. Zeybe said, በዋናነት በመሬት ወረራው ላይ ግንባር ቀደም ተሳታፊ የነበሩት ሰዎች ቦታዎቹ ከዚህ ቀደም የቤተሰቦቻችን መሬቶች ናቸውና በቂ ካሳ ሳይከፈለን ከቦታችን ተነስተናል የሚሉ ግለሰቦችና ወረራ የተፈጸመባቸው ቦታዎች አካባቢ ላይ የሚገኙ የክፍለ ከተማና የወረዳ ኃላፊዎችና ፈጻሚዎች ናቸው. Explaining the justification behind the land grab, which was the lack of proper compensation during previous expropriation efforts, Zeybe also made strong allegations about the mismanagement of public property, in this case, land, with the part of the report that read, በተለያየ መልኩ ሊጠቅሟቸው ለሚፈልጉ ግለሰቦች ቡድኖችና አደረጃጀቶች መሬትን ወረው እንዲይዙ አመቻችቷል። የመንግስትን ስልጣን ለህገወጥ ተግባር ከለላና ሽፋን እንዲሆን አድርጓል። ከዚህም ባስ ሲል ከግለሰቦች ጋር በመመሳጠር ራሳቸው ወረራ ፈጽመዋል. As well as another part that reads as follows. በአጠቃላይ በመሬት አስተዳደር በግንባታ ፈቃድና በደንብ ማስከበር እንዲሁም በጸጥታ መዋቅር ውስጥ ባሉ ኃላፊዎችና ፈጻሚዎች ግዴለሽነትና የወንጀል ተባባሪነት ከፍተኛ የሆነ የህዝብ ሀብት ተዘርፏል. The following were some of the key findings of the party in relation to land and its mismanagement and illegal allocation in Addis Ababa. According to the report, even though illegal land allocation was common in the city, it has reached unprecedented levels in recent times. Examples provided by the party include an area covering over 10 square meters around Jamo 3 condominium in an area commonly known as Borga, the area around Jamo roundabout, which was designated for a public hospital, a public school, and a public green area, eyewitness accounts of individuals fencing public land in the presence of and protected by security officials, the police, and other government authorities around the area between Haile Garment and Galan condominium. Other findings also show the amount and location of the land that has allegedly been allocated illegally by the city administration. This includes over 96,800 square meters in the Nefas Silk Lafto subsidy, over 58,000 square meters in the Yekka subsidy, over 22,500 square meters in the Akaki Kaliti subcity, over 21,000 square meters in Kolfe Qaranio subcity, over 15,000 square meters in the Bole subcity, which brings the total figure to a staggering 213,900 square meters of land obtained illegally in the 5 subsidies. Findings on condominium allocations were also damning. According to Zeybe, the party noted several incidents to indicate the illegal and unjust allocation of condominium by focusing on its issues such as the legal instruments that, according to Zeybe, without restriction allowed the city administration to allocate housing, the thousands of homes allocated to employees of the Oromia offices around Sarbet, Addis Ababa, the registration and dissemination of city identification cards to inhabitants of other regions in order to assist the allocation process, the inability to meet several promises, including ones made at the beginning of the year to build 5,000 new condominiums in the current Ethiopian year, and events surrounding the 30th lottery ceremony to identify recipients of condominiums held in March 2019 at the Intercontinental Hotel. The report by Zeybe, which can be located on Twitter page and other social media outlets of the party, starts by reminding readers of the historic background of the city. Zeybe's report read, ከተማዋ ከአጠቃላይ የሀገሪቱ ውስጥ ምርት ወደ 50 በመቶ ያህሉን የምታወጣ መሆኑ በሀገሪቱ አጠቃላይ የኢኮኖሚ ልማት ውስጥ እጅግ ከፍተኛ ሚና እንደምትጫወት ማሳያ ነው። This translates to the city contributes over more than 50% of the country's GDP. This shows that the city plays a crucial role in the economy of the country. Zeybe's report also noted the important contribution of the city to the modernization of Ethiopia, as well as its hospitality in hosting international and regional organizations, among which the African Union found around Sarbet and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa at the heart of Kasanchis were identified in the report. According to the party, interviews and documentary evidences were the scientific methodologies employed during the study. Zeybe stated that over 2,000 interviews were conducted via the party's hotline, which specifically formed for the collection of evidence for the above study. Out of the 2,000 interviews, 1,200 were selected as fitting for the study and included in the findings of the report by Zeybe. Additional documentary evidences and visits to the areas in question also formed a key part of the study's findings. Zeybe, the party represents the interests of the people of Addis Ababa, according to a tweet on the party's Twitter page, also explained in the report the need to conduct such a study. In this regard, the report justifies the necessity of conducting the study identifying public demand and mass media coverage as the driving causes behind the party conducting the said investigation into the matter. The report has been met with responses from key government officials concerned with the allegations as well as the general public. Takkala Umar, the 39-year-old former deputy mayor of Addis Ababa and current minister for Mines, Petroleum and Natural Gas of Ethiopia, responded to the allegations, strongly claiming that there was no illegal land grab or allocation of condominiums during his tenure as the head of the controversial city. Takkala denied any allegations against him or his administration through a Facebook message this past week. In the message written in Amharic, Takkala said, giving 20,000 condominiums to the over 67,000 families that had lost their land to unjust expropriation measures and found themselves working as daily laborers and night guards on land that was once their own is not unjust. Maybe the only unjust thing would be not giving all 67,000 families condominiums. Takkala also claimed in his message that all condominium and land allocation efforts were done in accordance with the law. He also said that there was nothing without the public's knowledge. ይህ ስራችን በተደጋጋሚ በይፋ ስንናገር እንደነበረው የምናፍርበት ሳይሆን የምንኮራበት ነው። በግፍ የተገፋን በግፍ ከመሬቱ የተፈናቀለን አርሶ አደር መካስ ያኮራናል። said Takkala, which translates to give the message that the administration is proud of the measures taken to properly compensate farmers expropriated unjustly. With historical entitlements that lack consensus in the country, compounded by ethnic and political ideologies, Ethiopia's capital is not new to controversial anomalies throughout the year. From the expansion of the master plan that was met with mass protests to the recurring tendency to flock to Addis Ababa during political demonstrations, making it ground zero for most riots and violent political rallies, and other instances, there's a lot of work ahead of newly appointed Deputy Mayor of Addis Ababa, Addis. The current issue in question, the controversial special interest of Oromia Regional State and other issues are amongst these assignments of the city's first female mayor. Addis became the 32nd mayor of Addis Ababa, replacing Takkala Umar, who was appointed as the new minister for Mines, Petroleum and Natural Gas of Ethiopia in a decision passed by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed last month. Yet another chapter in the constitutional dilemma in Ethiopia, the Tigray regional state will hold its controversial regional elections on Wednesday, September 9, 2020. The election is both a source of deliberation over constitutional law as well as posing one of the greatest challenges to the Ethiopian constitution, which celebrated its 25th year earlier this month on August 21, 2020. The elections are set to take place next week despite lack of recognition from the federal government, the National Election Board, and the House of Federation. Long-awaited answers to the questions such as, can there really be a regional election independent from the federal government? What are the legal and political implications of the elections in Tigray, especially in the context of the fragile Ethiopian federalism structure? What of Tigray's future in the federation? We'll find their answers next week on Wednesday. And other questions related to the TPLF and the inhabitants of the region will finally be answered, or start to be answered at the very least, following the regional elections next week. Roughly 159 days ago, the Ethiopian National Election Board announced that it would not be able to continue performing its preparatory activities for the national and regional elections due to the coronavirus pandemic that at the time had infected 25 confirmed Ethiopian patients. The 6 Ethiopian national and regional elections were supposed to be held on August 29, 2020. In June, the House of People's Representatives, the upper chamber of the Ethiopian bicameral parliament, extended the term of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and other government officials by a period spanning between 9 months and a year. It was reported at the time that the upper house had voted to extend terms of the federal and regional officials with 114 votes in favor. Only 4 opposed the resolution, while 1 member of the House of People's Representatives abstained from the voting. However, despite the decision by the Ethiopian government, the northern region of Tigray, led by the Tigray People's Liberation Front, announced later that month that it would not postpone its regional elections. The decision came as a shock to Ethiopians in and outside the country. The TPLF-led Tigray Regional State submitted requests to both the National Election Board and the House of Federation. Both requests were denied. This prompted an emergency meeting of the Council of the Tigray Regional State on July 16, 2020, which approved the formation of the Tigray Regional State Election Commission appointment of its officials. Muluwerk Kidane Mariam was elected as the commissioner of the Unorthodox Regional Election Commission, while Tsegereda Dibakulu was selected to deputize the commissioner. The other members of the commission were announced to be Mohammed Said Hagos, Dr. Zagga Birhan, and Professor Meressa Zahaye. Professor Meressa Zahaye told Addis Zeybe this week that all the necessary components of a free and fair election are present in the regional elections to be held next week on Wednesday. We have concluded registration of voters as well as holding debates and election campaigns throughout the period leading to the date of the election. According to the professor, the registration process was more than successful. At the onset, we had planned to register 2.6 million voters in the region. We were able to register more than 2.7 million that represented a 102.78% success rate, said Professor Meressa before telling Addis Zeybe that this was an indication that the election had public support among the inhabitants of the Tigray region. Despite warnings from international security firms like Garda World, which cautioned against possible protests related to the Tigray regional elections, the professor believes that there's no reason to suspect instability on the days leading up to the election, on the actual polling date, and the days following it. Unless provoked, there are no security threats associated with the election. And if provoked, we are prepared to deal with such intervention as well, said Professor Meressa, stressing that he is confident the election will go smoothly, granted intervention from the external actors results in a different outcome. Addis Zeybe also asked the professor about measures taken by the Commission and the regional state in relation to the coronavirus pandemic. According to Professor Meressa, this, from the get-go, was identified as one of the determinants of the election's success or failure. We have recruited volunteers to oversee the observance of precautionary measures. With the support of investors, volunteers, and institutions like the ICRC, we have also disseminated different precautionary equipment to all voting stations. He said, responding to questions about the regional election and its role in relation to the spread of the novel coronavirus pandemic. There are currently 55,213 confirmed coronavirus cases in Ethiopia. The Tigray regional state has confirmed over 4,000 cases thus far, while 21 patients have lost their lives to the pandemic. To the professor, the election is legal. The reason is simply exercising its right to self-rule. We went to the federal government before resonating to organizing it through a regional election commission. So we must stop seeing this as TPLF's election. It is not. Rather, it is the election of the people of Tigray. However, according to several statements from the federal government, this is far from the reality. According to the Ethiopian Prime Minister's speech at a meeting between himself and opposition leaders in July, said that even though the federal government does not intend to use force against the regional election, it will definitely take measures if the constitution is threatened by the outcome of the election, either at the onset or when the country reschedules its national elections after the nation controls the pandemic. At this point in time, there is no cause to be alarmed, because as long as the results of the election extend the term of the TPLF, the outcomes are just repeating the decision of the House of Federation to extend the term of seating government's official. But if other political parties win the election, then we will have a problem, because only TPLF can be in power in the Tigray regional state. According to spectators, however, the Tigray region and Abiy's administration may also be on collision course should the winner of the next election refuse to participate in the 6th national elections, once the new date is set by the National Election Board. The rest to win the seats of the Tigray Regional Council are set to kick off with parties such as the TPLF, Baitona Tigray, and Salsawi Wayani. The elections will be held in the absence of the second oldest party in the northern region, Arena Tigray, for democracy and sovereignty. We have reached the segment where we here at Recap Ethiopia take the time to appreciate and bring to light the Ethiopian men and women that have received awards and recognition this past week. This week, while one Ethiopian received the world's finest dissertation award, two more have been recognized for their hard work and effort. The first person we will be talking about is Zeybe, an Ethiopian computer scientist and assistant computer science professor at University of California, Berkeley. Born and raised in Addis Ababa, Zeybe won a merit-based scholarship to attend the International Community School of Addis Ababa when in the 8th grade. Finishing her high school education, she went on to earn her bachelor's degree in mathematics and her master's in applied mathematics at Harvard University. Zeybe received the Best Dissertation Award, an award that recognizes papers presented to the Special Interest Group on Knowledge Discovery and Data Mining Conference, which is a conference held annually. The prestigious award in 2014 received over 2,600 papers from over 14 countries, of which 151 papers were selected to be presented, which means it has an acceptance rate of 14.6%. As the winner of the SIG KDD Doctoral Dissertation Award, Zeybe will be recognized at a conference, received a plaque, a check for $2,500, and free registration to attend the SIG KDD conference. Dr. Yohannes Haile Selassie, the paleoanthropologist, began his journey in Addis Ababa University and earned his bachelor's in history in the summer of 1982. Continuing his education abroad, Dr. Yohannes completed his master's education in anthropology at the University of California, Berkeley, where he also earned his PhD in integrative biology under his doctoral advisor, Tim White. Tim White is best known for leading the team that discovered RD in Ethiopia, the 4.4 million-year-old likely human ancestor. In December of last year, Dr. Yohannes was named one of Nature's journal's 10 people who mattered in science in 2019 for discovering a 3.8 million-year-old fossil that belonged to the oldest and most elusive known human relative. And now the Ethiopian paleoanthropologist has been selected as a guest speaker in the JAR lecture series that is organized by the Journal of Anthropological Research and sponsored by University of New Mexico. Dr. Yohannes told the University of New Mexico newsroom how happy he is and went on listing the brilliant minds such as Dr. Donald Johansson and Dr. Loring Brace that have spoken on this platform in previous years and said how honored he was to be invited to such a prestigious platform. The third and last person we will be mentioning today is the 24-year-old Ethiopian aerospace engineer that has been listed in the annual African Space Industry Top 10 Under 30 list. Lydia Elias completed her Bachelor's of Engineering in Aeronautical Engineering at Nanjing University, Aeronautics and Astronautics. After graduation, she was a researcher at the Space Engineering Department of the Ethiopian Space Science and Technology Institute. Completing 2 satellite training programs in China and Russia, she is currently pursuing an online MBA with the University of Wales, UK. She recently received a certification in drone technology from the first cohort of African Drone and Data Academy, making her the first Ethiopian woman to receive this achievement. Space in Africa started the Top 10 Under 30 series to spotlight the profiles of the top 10 innovators, engineers, researchers, writers, and contributors to the African space industry. And all her achievements will be featured in current projects which will take place in Malawi in collaboration with UNICEF, GIZ, Wingcopter, and DCA will be featured. Lydia Elias is working as a technical manager in partnership with a German company to build the first Air UTM, or Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Traffic Management, which has been offered a contract from the European Space Agency. That's it for this week's episode. Tune in next week for more of Recap Ethiopia.